What is going on, everyone? Today I am very excited to be bringing you my Imperialdramon deck list that I used to get 4th place at Dallas Regionals yesterday. Now, I was very happy with this list. We did a lot of testing. Big shout out to my team, Team Icewall, for helping me out with all the prep for this and whatnot. So I'm excited to have my Nationals invite already. That's obviously something that I'm going to be looking forward to doing well in next year. And if you are interested in looking at the matchups that I played at the regional, I'll go ahead and pin a comment down below that you can go check out. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into the list. Alright, so starting off with the DigiTama, we have the 4 Demi-Vmon. I think this is just the best egg. This procs so much, especially with X-Vmon. You can swing, and then when you DNA Digivolve, it'll reset, so then you can go into Imperialdramon. You can swing, unsuspend, get the draw off of this, get the draw off of Stingmon. You get a lot of draw off of this card, so it is very, very good. But I do like to play 5 eggs because of slower yellow matchups, so I do play the Upamon. There are multiple other eggs that you could play, like Source Strip or maybe DP buffs, but I just want to draw. I just wanted all my eggs to draw, so I just went straight for the Upamon. Yes, sometimes Source Strip and DP removal is going to be nice, but I just want to draw the cards that I put into my main deck, so I just want to be drawing as much as possible. Starting off with the rookies, we're going to be having 4 of the starter deck 9 Vmon. This one is just very consistent. I only max out at 4 on this Vmon because of its consistency. Most of the Digimon in my deck are free, so essentially I'm going to be playing this, recycling a card to my hand while also having a Digimon on board that I can get a check with, or I can Digivolve up, whatever I need to do. So this card is just very consistent. I like it at 4. I never really considered cutting it down or really tested it. You could, but I think it's one of, if not the best Vmons that you can play, because sometimes you need on-play effects to do things, to pass turns, to effectively be able to cycle through your deck, and Vmon does this perfectly. Now we're getting into 3 EX1 Vmon. I think this is the best inheritable Vmon just because gaining memory is so powerful. It helps extend plays in this deck so much. So being able to just go into Imperialdramon, swing on suspend, or go into fighter mode, swing on suspend, and be able to gain memory, and then if it sticks on board, you get to do it again next turn. I've had multiple games in testing, and even yesterday at the regional where I had 2 of these in the same stack by just Digivolving on top of them. DNA Digivolve, go into Imperialdramon, swing unsuspend, gain 2 memory off of it. It's very, very powerful. I just think it's very good. Like, I play Hammer Spark because Hammer Spark does the same thing, so it's an inheritable that does that, and that makes it so you can either pair that with Hammer Spark, you can make it so you don't have to use your Hammer Sparks, and you can just get the Vmon here, and it does do a lot of things. Like, let's say you stick a Imperialdramon on the board, and you have Davis out, so you're going to go to 3, you can swing unsuspend, you'll be able to gain a memory, go to 4, and that means you can play Dragon Mode without passing your turn and stuff like that, so I just think gaining memory is very powerful. Then we're going to have 2 BT8 Vmons here. A lot of people don't really like this Vmon. I still think it's very good because of how good Megadeth is. I think the fact that you can search Megadeth off of this makes it just worth playing, in my opinion. There are a lot of times where I'll just keep this in my hand until I really need to find a dual color card, because the fact that you search top 4 means that if you need something like an Imperial or a Imperialdramon, yes, you can play this Vmon, but it searches 3, as where this will search 4, and so you get that 1 extra card search to find that key piece that you need to be able to go for your turn, or you can hit Davis Ken off of it if you want to, but I just like this because of how good Megadeth is. I think the fact that I have a card that can search that on top of a bunch of other key pieces in my deck is very good, but at times bottom decking all your key pieces as well is not as good because you can't hit things like Steamon or X-Vmon. The only champions that you're getting here are Ragemon and Magnamon, so it's not as good for stuff like that, but I still think it's a card that when you're in your bind and you need to find a certain card, this Vmon's very consistent at doing it. Next up, we got 2 BT2 Vmon. I was playing the starter deck 8 Vmon here, but I found that after turn like 1 or 2, that Vmon doesn't really get you cards as much just because of how much you search and draw in this deck. You're going to be at 8 or more cards very early in the game, and so mid to the late game, it just felt like a dead card. It felt like it's just a vanilla Vmon essentially for me. So this one at least gets me draws in the late game, so it's worse in the early game, but better in the late game, and I prioritize the late game just because there's a lot of games that are going to go late versus yellow decks and stuff like that, and so this one's just going to be much more useful in those matchups. Then to finish off our Vmons, I'm just playing 1 Jamming Vmon. I'm honestly not super impressed by Jamming Vmon in this deck. It is nice to have sometimes. I think it's good if you're able to get it out like turn 1 in the mirror match and stuff, but for the most part, with the rookies, a lot of the times you want to just be Digivolving on top of them, and the ones that I do hard play with the starter deck 9 and the BT8, these ones give me value on play, as to where if I just play this, it's just a jamming, so it is nice. It does pair with the Demi Vmon early, and it makes it so if you can put it in raising and promote, and then if you don't want to digivolve on top over it, then you can still get the draw without having to go into XVmon. But for the most part, you're digivolving on top of your Vmons in most matchups very consistently, making it so this jamming Vmon is essentially just a vanilla Vmon in a lot of situations. But it has been a little bit niche, and I tested around with different ratios of these ones, 3 here, 3 here, or 4 here, and I just decided to go back to the jamming Vmons. After testing 2 jamming Vmons, I just tested down to 1, and now I just like it at 1. That's probably just personal preference, but I don't think it's the craziest one, so I wouldn't really go back to 2 or more. Then to finish off the rookies, we got 2 Madoki Betamon, and this card was so MVP yesterday in the regional. I can't tell you how good this card is. People are very much on the memory boost metagame right now. Yellow memory boost in the yellow decks, blue memory boost in blue decks, either Armor Rush or Imperial, stuff like that. Even X Antibodies playing black memory boost. I've stopped so much memory gain off this card. It is insane. It also has a very cool thing that you can do where with Imperial, the Dragon mode, it says that you play 1 level 4 or lower blue and 1 level 4 or lower green. So you can go ahead and put Madoki, if you have a stack with Madoki, or you can go into Chimera and put Madoki underneath, and then you can digivolve into the Dragon mode, put your opponent at like 1 memory, and then instead of taking out the XVmon, you can take out the Madoki and play it out. I did that, I think, 3 or 4 games yesterday, and they were all very crucial because versus the yellow, I remember one match I was playing versus Rapidmon. They only had 1 Tamer out, but they had 3 yellow memory boost, and I was at 3 memory and was able to play Dragon mode and just put them at 1 at Madoki, and they were missing their rookie for the Rapidmon in raising, and so it just won me the game because they pretty much couldn't do anything, and I just kept putting them at 1 or 2 for until they finally hit their TK. But Madoki was very, very strong in most matchups. A lot of people were playing it at 1, maybe less. I actually was playing it at 1, and then very last minute before deck submission, I actually ended up cutting a card that we'll talk about later to go up to 2 Madokis because there was no mulligans for this tournament, and so I wanted to have a good consistency of hitting rookies and raising because you need to be able to digivolve up, so I didn't want to have opening hands a lot that didn't have rookies. But we'll talk about which card I cut out later, but yeah, this is going to be the rookie lineup. So now getting into the champions, we got 4 XVmon and we got 4 Stingmon. I don't think there's really much to say about these. These are your main DNA Digivolve tools. Obviously, XVmon is probably one of the more key pieces of the deck. Our egg is basically based around this. Being able to give this jamming inheritable to Imperialdramon is going to be insane because then you can get 2 swings with jamming, or even fighter mode be able to get 2 swings with jamming. So these ones are very key. I just wanted to max them out. I was originally, when I first built the deck, I was playing 3 Stingmon, and I very quickly switched to 4 Stingmon just because there are times where if you're missing one of these 2 pieces, you are slowing down a lot. And since Stingmon is played for 3, it really speeds things up. So I think 4/4 is pretty staple. Then we got 3 Raidramon here. This card is obviously very good. Being able to be green and blue helps a lot when you have Davis Ken out, so you can digivolve this in raising, promote, start a main phase. You get to gain that 2 memory, and that's something that your opponent can pretty much never play around unless they delete Davis Ken. But being able to like suspend level 4 or lowers is a very, very good effect. And then being able to have the armor purge is nice. I don't really think, I don't know, Raidramon's just, it's a good card. I don't really have much to say about it. It's consistent to a degree, but I didn't want to play it at 4 because I am also playing 1 Magnamon. Magnamon was super, super, super insane. Once we get to Chimera, I can talk about the effects of Magna a little bit more, but 1, having a blocker is very big in this deck because something that this deck lacks, and I also noticed this in things like Blue Hybrid or even Bond of Friendship when I was playing those, is that these type of decks can stabilize board very easily, but if your opponent gets aggressive early and gets you down to 1 or 0 security, then you lose to Digimon promoting from raising because you have nothing to affect that. So by having a blocker, it does help with that. So I originally wanted to test it, but the consistency of finding this card is very big because you can search it off both these Searcher Vmons. You can get it off of Davis. There's so much draw in this deck that you're going to find this. And even if this isn't security, that's fine because we're going to be able to recycle this with ChimeraMon. So Magnamon was really big. This is probably the card that people ask me the most about. Do you like Magna? Is Magna good? Is Magna good? Yes, Magna is really good. We'll be able to get into it a little bit more, like I said, once we get into ChimeraMon here in a second. But Magnamon just works with this deck so well, and the fact that you only need it as a 1-of to be consistent is a really good engine, and then it just adds a blocker to the deck that doesn't really take anything away. Oh, and the restand effect is nice too, because we have the EX1 VMon and the BT2 VMon that do effects when you unsuspend. So say you have Ragemon, you swing, you Armor Purge, you can go into Magnamon, Digivolve when Digivolving, unsuspend, and so then you can do it for 2 if you have EX1 VMon, or you can get a draw off of it on top of your Digivolution draw. So Magnamon's very nice. And then to finish off the champions, we are just going with the 1 Lobomon. I originally cut out the Lobomon at one point, but I decided to put it back in. It was just way too crucial. Every time I had it in the deck, I just get way too many game-winning swings that I wouldn't have without it here. I like the hybrid over Blitz Omnimon just because having a Tamer is a much easier late game condition to have than having a level 6 on the board, and it's only for 2 memory, so I like this as the burst finisher a little bit more. The reason why I chose Lobomon over Kumamon is because of the situation in the mirror match where if you have a Tamer on the board and you don't have anything in raising, then a lot of times your opponent can swing with XVmon very freely if you're playing the mirror match, because you don't have a way to punish them, but Lobomon is a way to punish that. So if they swing with XVmon, it comes into your turn, you can go into Lobomon on top of your Tamer and swing over, which is very big because getting rid of XVmon is a big momentum swing. Kumamon can be nice because of stripping sources. There's a lot of situations where that will be nice, but I just like Lobomon more, and I guess you could run Korikakumon if you wanted to because it's 6k, so it's technically a little bit bigger, but the thing is it's a 3 to Digivolve on top of rookies, and there are times where you have to Digivolve Lobomon up just so you can get your Stingmon out and start to DNA Digivolve up. I've had to do it numerous times, and with Korikakumon it's just 1 memory more expensive, which in that situation when you're having to go into your Lobomon, you're usually not a little bit behind, so having to pay 3 memory for that is just super neg. So 5k DP is really all you need to have the threshold to go over the 4k, and so I like Lobomon, and plus it has an alt art. Alright, now for the level 5s, we got 4 Imperialdramon, of course. Main ultimate in this deck, it is super insane, being able to DNA Digivolve, bottom deck a 6k or less, be able to swing unsuspend with things like jamming, EX1 VMon, Demi VMon, Stingmon, which is not once per turn. This card just gives you so much insane value. I don't see any reason why you would not play this at 4. It is just so incredibly strong. It's probably arguably the strongest card in the deck as far as a Digimon goes. So play it at 4. Then to finish off the ultimates, I'm only playing 6. I'm playing 2 ChimeraMon. So why ChimeraMon over Dino Beamon? Although I really like Dino Beamon, ChimeraMon adds a lot to the deck that you need. So sometimes rush decks are very annoying, or your opponent, you're playing Imperial and they're going for a rookie rush strategy and you don't really have a good way to get through that. Chimera is a good way to go wide. You don't really have wide removal, you just have tall removal with Megadeth. Also, this card, again, will go through with the Magnamon here. So what you can do with Magnamon is this gives you the color yellow. So you can go into ChimeraMon, you can put Magna underneath. You're able to give minus 4k now, which means that you can pop things like XVmon, Stingmon. If your opponent goes into Dragon mode and passes the turn, you can just go Chimera, put Magna underneath, have a blue, green, yellow, and then white, have the 4 colors, minus 4, be able to pop those. Plus, your turn effect, when you have 4 more colors, you get the plus 4k, so this becomes a 12k, so it's very big. And then the main thing is Magnamon is a very annoying card. 7k blocker can block a lot of things. So being able to, if this is in your trash and you play Chimera, you put this underneath, you can then now go into Dragon mode and play this out and get this 7k blocker for free. I've had multiple games where I've played Magnamon 3 times a game by Digivolving it early and then double ChimeraMon, putting it underneath, and then go into Dragon mode and play it out. It's a very annoying card for your opponent to get through in a lot of matchups unless they have things like Ragemon or whatever, but it's just the 7k DP threshold is very hard for you to get through. It can block things like Jet Sylphimon, it can block XVmon, and it's just very nice. So the 4k or the 4th color really makes it work for me. Ever since I started testing Magna, I cut out Dino B because this package together has become very strong and given a whole different dynamic to the Imperial deck that I didn't have before, and it's one that is both defensive and aggressive, and so yeah, I really like ChimeraMon here. Now getting into Imperialdramon himself, we're going to be playing 2 Dragon mode, 2 Fighter mode. I was playing 3 and 2 at one point. I decided that it's not necessary. The amount of consistency that you can find to get here, the amount of draw, the search, all that, I find them pretty consistently. Sure, there are some games where I don't find the Dragon mode when I might need it, but I have never really been like wanting to go back up to 3. It's just sometimes, yes, you don't find it because it is a 2 of, so sometimes one's going to be in your security, one's going to be at the bottom of your deck, and that is a bit annoying. But when you're playing the 4 of these together, it's 4 megas, you're going to see one eventually, and both of them are very strong in themselves. And there are times where just going into fighter mode is fine. You don't have to go into dragon mode. Obviously, going into dragon mode and then fighter mode is a little bit better in a lot of situations, but I just liked it at 2 and 2 here. I think with how much search and draw you get, this is consistent enough for me because I see them most of the time. It's just some games you're not going to see one or the other because they're 2 ofs. Now getting into the Tamers, we got 2 Davis and 1 Mimi as our memory Tamers. Davis is obviously insane. It is search the top 3, grab a blue and a green Digimon, which in this deck is most Digimon. You're able to grab 2 off of Davis consistently. When these dual color cards, you can go ahead, like if I was to have these 2 come out, I'd be able to take both of them because one would count as a blue, one would count as a green, stuff like that. It's very strong with these dual color decks. Davis has always been a very strong Tamer, and it's even stronger in this list. Then we play the 1 Mimi. Mimi is absolutely insane. Versus yellow hybrid, this card puts in so much work. The fact that you can essentially have once you stabilize a dragon mode or like a Imperialdramon, and you can tap Mimi to keep hatching each turn, and being able to promote each turn is very powerful because that means even if they board clear you, you always have a Digimon to go into, which means that you always have the opportunity to be able to combo up, bottom deck their Rapidmon with Imperialdramon. Really tried to bump this up to 2 leading up to this event, but I just never found the room for it, I'm gonna be completely honest. I still think I would just because of how strong it is versus yellow and how many yellows there are. I played against 4 Rapidmons in a row, and Mimi was clutch in most of them. Sometimes she didn't come up, but whenever you get Mimi out early, it is completely game-changing because it really lowers the amount of damage that they can do to you as far as momentum, because you always have something in raising. Then finishing it off, we're just playing with 2 Davis and Ken. I went down to 2 Davis and Ken from 3 very early of this coming out. I just felt Davis and Ken in this deck is more of a card that you really just want one of on the field. As to where with like Armor Rush, you'd probably want more, so that way you can go ahead and go into your armors and unsuspending and swinging with the Fire Rocket. But in this deck, I really just want to see one. The memory gain is very strong, but a lot of the times you just have something like XVmon in raising, so you just gain a memory off of it. Once you start stabilizing something like a fighter mode, then you can get a lot of memory off of it. But playing this for 4 without having any direct value is really rough. Yes, Mimi doesn't give you any direct value either, but Mimi is a memory tamer, so if you open this and you don't have Davis, being able to play this and then being able to make it so that you go to 3 next turn is pretty much immediate value. So I just decided to go with 2 here. I don't see it every game, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just a really good card, but you don't really want to keep paying 4 memory to play this. You want to use that 4 memory to progress your game plan, go into dragon mode, be able to hard play Stingmon, stuff like that. Now to finish off the list, we're going to have 3 Hammer Spark. Now, when we were talking about Madoki, I said I cut a card last minute to play a 14th rookie and a second Madoki. I did cut 4th Hammer Spark. I had been talking with my teammates for a bit about this. I really couldn't make a decision on if I wanted the 4 Hammer Spark or the 14th rookie. I decided pretty much last minute that I would prefer to have the 14th rookie. I don't know if it really changed that much. I can tell you that as far as having a 14 rookie count, I can tell you for sure that having 2 Madoki was very impactful, though. There were multiple games where I played Madoki and they had to clear it, and then I could play another Madoki, and I just kept stopping them from using memory boosts and having them give me a bunch of memory to remove it. And so as far as that, it was very good. But Hammer Spark is just so strong in a deck like this. Being able to gain memory and progress your plays and be able to continue to do things is very nice. So pairing it with Hammer Spark, but I would like to get this back up to 4, I'm going to be honest. Then we got 3 Megadeth. This card is just super insane. I want to see this consistently both in hand and in security because it just does so much. It really just can set back huge boards. There's a lot of decks going very tall in this metagame, so being able for 5 memory to just reset all of that is very nice. I've seen lists playing it at 2. I just like it at 3. I like the consistency. I never really considered playing it at 4. You probably could. I just never tested it. All right, then we got 1 HPD and 1 Ice Wall. Hidden Potential Discovered is just super cracked in this list. What me and Jesse call HPD scoop phase is definitely a real thing. There were a lot of times where when I played this card, I won the game that turn, or I put so much pressure on board that turn that I essentially won like the next turn or whatever. So being able to go like HPD into fighter mode and then use Davis Ken to suspend, unsuspend, or go into dragon mode for free, be able to play out 2 things, go into fighter mode, bounce something, DNA Digivolve. There's so many things that you can do. HBD is just super insane. The fact that this card is even legal is insane. This card only gets better, I feel like, in the future as well. So with it at 1, it's not as consistent. I didn't see it every game, but it's just one of those things where this is such a game-shifting singular card with the megas that you play that it's insane. And then 1 Ice Wall. It's just Ice Wall. I was debating, do I cut Ice Wall or do I cut 4th Hammer Spark? I decided to cut Hammer Spark because I was playing 3 EX1 VMon, so I figured I have another way to play this, and I'm going to be completely honest, I was expecting a little bit more Armor Rush. I didn't play against any, and I didn't see any played against, but I did have some good Ice Walls in the mirror match, making it so that way they can't go ahead and just freely swing X VMon, DNA Digivolve, go into Imperialdramon, get 2 swings with jamming is nice. So Ice Wall is good, and it's just a cheap card too. So like if you're at 0 and everybody knows, put your opponent to 1 with Ice Wall. It's a very strong thing to do. So yeah, this is going to be the list. So again, I am very happy to have topped, get my Nats invite, and I hope you all enjoyed. This was a deck that people kept asking me for. I told you all I'd bring it to you after regionals, so I got it to you as soon as I could. But with that being said, let me know what you think, and I hope you have a great day. Peace out.